Hello, welcome to the Villages, Florida. My name is David. I'm a realtor with Florida Realty Investments, and every week we take a look at what's happening in the real estate market and in the Villages real estate market specifically. Before we start this week, I would like to express deep appreciation and gratitude to all of the supporters and subscribers. We just passed 1,000 subscribers last week, and I cannot tell you how much it meant to me. I really, really appreciate it. In that vein, I have an announcement to make. We are starting a Patreon page. We're going to be adding more content to the show. We're going to start by having a weekly show for paid subscribers that's going to be the same information that we've been providing for the entirety of the villages, but it will be broken down by a geographic region. A lot of my viewers have been asking me for that level of detail, and we've decided that we will expend the effort to provide it. Hopefully, we can get enough paying subscribers to justify the increased effort. Join us on our Patreon page. You can find the link in the description of the video below. We certainly would appreciate your support. If you're interested in buying a home in the villages and you're trying to get a good deal, or you're trying to investigate a geographic region of the villages and are trying to determine what price parameters might be there, please reach out to me. I'll be happy to research these questions for you. Similarly, if you're looking to sell your home in the villages and you're trying to maximize your return in a reasonable period of time, please reach out to DavidisinFlorida@gmail.com. I'll be happy to help you or research any questions you have. There are a lot of interesting data points in this week's show, some good and some bad, and we'll cover them all in detail as we get to them. But before we begin, let me make a couple of points. First, all of this information is drawn from the MLS, the Multiple Listing Service. It does not include any properties that are listed on the village's own internal listing service, the VLS. For that reason, if you're looking to buy a house in the villages, you really should employ two realtors, one with the villagers who can show you VLS properties and one who can show you MLS properties. Without both realtors, you will not be able to see all the properties that are available for sale. The other point I would make is that all of this data is drawn from the multiple listing service and it does not include any information from the village's listing service. So, with that out of the way, let's take a look at what's happening this week. As always, we start by taking a look at what's happening with interest rates. Those of you who follow the channel know that the government 10-year note yield is the yield that most closely tracks mortgage rates. And looking at this graph, you can see that today, the 23rd of October 23, we had a big move higher in the price of the 10-year note and correspondingly a big move lower in the yield of the 10-year note, taking us almost back to where the yield was when we did the show last week. It's anybody's guess as to how long this correction will last, but I will caution you to pay attention to how much money the federal government is going to have to borrow over the next few quarters. It's hard to imagine that the pressures on interest rates are going to be inflationary only. I found this very interesting graph, which I decided to add to the show for this week. It shows you the effective interest rate on mortgage debt outstanding compared to the current US mortgage fixed rate, which is in red. I don't think we've ever seen such a wide disparity between the average mortgage that is outstanding and current mortgage rates. This is one of the major factors as to why the real estate market is currently in a state of freeze. Sellers who have mortgages at well below market rates are unwilling to sell their houses, and buyers are unable to afford houses at current mortgage rates. So, with that caution out of the way, let's now turn our attention to what's happening in the villages itself. We start by looking at all listings currently in the villages. They number 311, down from 319 of last week, and 243 listings a year ago. Prices for all listings in the villages range from 166,250 to just under $2.7 million. This is an overview of all listings currently available in the villages, broken down by price segment, and you can see how many properties were available in each price segment every week. This week, in the most active price segment, the $300,000 to $500,000 range, there are 191 properties for sale. Here we take a look at the median listing price per square foot for all listings currently available in the villages. This week, the median listing price is $263.61, down marginally from the $263 281 of last week, and still down from the 273.30 of the same week a year ago. Two things to note as you look at these graphs. The first is that the graph is a 4-week smoothed average, whereas the figures you see above are actual numbers. The other point to note on this graph specifically is that it appears as if the listing price per square foot may finally be increasing again. This graph shows us how long properties have been on the market. This is the median time on the market for all listings. This week it's 41 days. It was only 39 days the previous week, and it was 44 days the same week a year ago. Once again, make note that all of these graphs are reflecting a 4-week moving average. One more look at all of the listings. This shows us how many listings have been on the market for 100 days or longer. This week, 67 out of the 311 listings meet that criteria, slightly higher, 22% this week of all listings than the 21% that was in effect last week. Now we come to the graph that gave rise to the horrifying graph of 2 weeks ago. This graph shows us the number of new listings and the number of homes that went pending over a 7-day period. And you can see that new listings this week numbered 27, increasing from 25 last week. And the number of homes that went pending numbered 33, down slightly from the 38 that went pending last week. Last year, those numbers were 25 new listings and 24 homes going pending. Keep in mind, once again, that this graph is showing a 4-week smoothing of the data. And now we come to the graph that looked so horrifying 2 weeks ago. It was showing the difference between the properties that entered the market over the previous 7 days and the properties that left the market over the previous 7 days, i.e. new listings and pending home sales. The difference you're seeing here is a smooth 4-week moving average, but as you can see for the last 2 weeks, we've definitely been improving. Here's a more in-depth look at all of the new listings this week. In the most active price segment, the $300,000 to $500,000 range, there were 17 new listings, identical to the 17 of last week. Now we'll take a look at the homes that went pending over the last 7 days. They went pending at a median price per square foot of $261.86 a square foot, up dramatically from the $245.56 that was in effect the week before, and almost identical to the $261.81 that was in effect for the same week a year ago. Here we take a look at how long the homes that went pending last week were on the market before going pending. And the number is 36 days, vastly improved from the 59 days that was in effect the previous week, but still worse than the 22 days that was in effect a year ago. And I hope I need not mention again that the graph is reflecting 4-week smoothed data. This graph takes another look at the homes that went pending last week. We're looking in this case at what the median price change was. Last week it was a reduction of 4.99% compared to 5.39% the previous week, and an improvement from the 4.62% that was in effect for the same week a year ago. And one more look at pending home sales. This gives us an idea as to how exuberant the market is. Here we're looking at how many homes go pending within 7 days of being listed. Over the last 7 days, 5 of the 33 homes that went pending were on the market for 7 days or less, 15% of the homes that went pending, compared to 16% of the homes that went pending within 7 days the week before. And now we turn our attention to sales that closed over the last 7 days. 27 of them closed compared to 25 the week before, and compared to only 18 homes that closed the same week a year ago. Homes that sold last week ranged from $108,000 to $1,175,000. $108,000 seems a very low price for all the amenities the Villages has to offer. Here's a breakdown of the homes that closed last week. You can see how many of them there were in each price segment going back for the last 5 weeks. In the most active price segment, the $300,000 to $500,000 range, last week 17 homes closed. Here's another look at the homes that sold and closed last week. This is the median price per square foot at which they closed. $241 last week, down dramatically from the $256 of the previous week, and from the $251 that was in effect a year ago. Once again, the graph is a smoothed 4-week average, and it does not fully reflect the recent drop. This looks at how long the homes that closed last week were on the market before going pending, and the median time was 20 days, an improvement from the 28 days of the week before, and very much improved from the 37 days that was in effect a week ago. The graph, although it is showing a smooth 4-week average, definitely seems to be showing buyer enthusiasm. Here's an interesting data point. We're looking at the homes that sold and we're looking at how they were financed. The brown line represents total sales. This data is monthly until 5 weeks ago. Total sales in brown, cash purchases in blue. The orange line is conventional mortgages. You can see that the number of sales does seem to be trending lower, but cash remains the choice for financing here in the villages. Another way of looking at the data from the previous graph, this is the percent of homes that closed that were purchased by cash buyers. And you can see that this week we are down very slightly from previous weeks. Here we look at all listings once again to get some idea as to how many of them are reducing their asking price from the original listing price. This week, 52.09% have reduced their asking price from the original listing price. Last week, only 48.9% of them had. This compares to 52.67% of listings the same week last year. A couple of interesting points to note. The biggest price reduction on MLS currently is a reduction from $1,350,000 to $995,000. And last week, the biggest reduction was 10% on a property that was reduced from just under $880,000 to just under $800,000. If you join our Patreon, we're intending to do a more in-depth feature on price reductions every week. And this looks at what the decrease actually was. For last week, the median decrease from the original listing price was 4%, improvement from the 4.06% that was in effect the week before, and improving from the 4.71% reduction that was in effect the same week a year ago. So that concludes this week's look at the Villages real estate market. Once again, if you're interested in buying a home here and you're trying to conduct some research as to what a good deal would be or what the best price in a particular neighborhood would be, or you're considering selling your home and would like to do so in a reasonable period of time, please reach out to me at DavidisinFlorida@gmail.com. Be happy to help you in any way I can or to answer questions on the Villages itself. I hope to hear from you. Take care.